share my screen now. Okay.
Okay, cool. So if you can go to the agenda slide. I've seen someone who has raised their hand, Inch Wiseborn.
So I can allow you to talk. Would it be possible to just put your question in the chat and we can address that if there's any issues on your end? Well, just for context, we're just waiting for people to join. We'll be getting started soon.
Okay.
Chat is disabled. Okay, all right. Good to know. So yeah, if you do need to give us any feedback or have any questions, then please use the Q&A section. Thank you, Lucas, for pointing that out.
Okay, so let's start, Stephen. Okay, so yeah, so here's a brief about today's agenda. If you can go to the agenda slide. Okay, so we'll be discussing about what's new, the required changes, how your data will be migrated, and the next step. But before we deep dive into the technicalities, I would like to give you a brief of the key benefits of the new platform. So next slide, please, Stephen. Okay, while I'm briefing out the key benefits, Stephen, would you mind checking the Q&A section that we are having at the moment?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Okay, thank you, Stephen. So the new platform has lots of benefits that will help you grow, I would say globally. As you may know, Checkout keep expanding in new countries. Startup this year, we got our acquiring license in the UAE and most recently in Japan. We have the ability to support our clients' expansion via this new platform. And all other countries that's being expanded in the pipeline that we have in the pipeline for 2024, this all will also be done on the new platform only. In terms of configuration, the new platform provides a clearer view of your account and more flexibility on how to route your payment. More flexible security features. What I mean by that is, as you may be familiar, the hub has a few limitations. Some of them would be API keys being tied to channel IDs, limited user permission where you can one user can either have admin or read access. The new platform provides more flexibility in customizing your account and the user setting. The new platform also provides our merchants with the ability to drill deeper into the transaction level data, understand payment status and the breakdown of fees, as well as have an overview under our analytic section, the payment performance, and identify root cause. Checkout is an innovative company, and we keep on adding new products as well to make payment more seamless and more secure for our clients. All new products are being enabled on the new platform. We recently launched the Intelligence Acceptance, Rapid Dispute Resolution, FD Pro, real-time account updater, amongst others, on the new platform. And again, all new launches will be done on the new platform going forward. The old platform will be maintained until all our clients are migrated in the coming month. If you want to have more information about the key benefits and products of the new platform that checkout.com is offering, you can refer to the full deck we sent you in the initial email. And now, before I leave the floor to Stephen, I want you to know that we heard you about the timeline and understand that for some of you, it might be a tight deadline. Our recommendation is to make the full of this webinar and start looking into the migration to assess the amount of work required on your side. And if after that, you still feel you have concern about the timing, please feel free to reach out to our dedicated platform upgrade team who will work with you to achieve this deadline. Over to you now, Stephen, who will walk you through the technical side of the upgrade.
Thanks very much, Simi. And just a general heads up with the Q&A. I was trying to answer a few by text as Simi was talking there, and I'm sure she'll do the same. But predominantly, if you can save your questions till at least towards the end, because we have content on many of the things and it might answer your question anyway. But yeah, feel free to put questions in there, but we'll probably be covering most of those in the Q&A section at the end of this presentation. So first of all, the deadline, we'll have to address the elephant in the room here. Basically, as Simi mentioned, this is what's been communicated to you at the moment, the 31st of January, which is basically what we want you to target as the end point of processing new payments on the existing platform and to move to the new platform. To note, we will still obviously allow you to process refunds, chargebacks, any kind of follow-up actions on your existing payments through the previous platform. Secondly, another thing to note, in line with that previous point, we obviously want you to, if you are looking to integrate any new kind of payment methods or address one of our new functions, then we want you to start building on this new platform, which we're presenting to you today. And off the back of this, if you haven't already, you should receive access to our sandbox environment to get started with integration and testing. The next point to address is that for the majority of you, you'll currently be using our Unified Payments API already on the existing platform. The good news for you for this upgrade is that the new platform also is built on the same foundations using that exact same Unified Payments API, just with some minimal tweaks on top. So the actual integration changes that many of you will have to make can actually be quite small. I should, though, mention for a small group of you, if you're still using the classic API, which was the, if you're not aware, the predecessor to our Unified Payments API, this was, I believe, officially retired in 2021. But for those of you, if you are still using this, there will be additional work required to basically migrate from that classic API to our Unified Payments API before then making the changes, which we'll outline in the following slides. We do have a dedicated migration guide for this, and also, as Simi mentioned, we'll have a platform upgrade team who can also help you with specific queries around that. So first of all, I'll be going over what new functionality has been added before going through any kind of breaking changes which you'll actually have to adapt to for the upgrade. So the first kind of major change in the new platform upgrade will be your account structure. So while this format may look fairly familiar to you from the existing platform, there are some kind of key changes which allow a bit more flexibility of different setups and also enable some of our new products that we can offer on the new platform. So first of all, at the top level, you have your client, which is roughly equivalent to what you have now in your account. Below that, now, instead of businesses, which you had on your current platform, there are now entities. So these are actually tied to the legal entities, so the registered businesses for your business. And within these, we actually have configuration for your payouts, for example, from the currency account, and sort of high-level configuration. Now, I mentioned the concept of businesses, which you kind of use to split up your account in the current platform. Now, much of the logic that exists on businesses now actually moves to the processing channel level on the new platform. So within processing channels, you can have individual configurations to do with the payment methods that are enabled, to currencies, etc. So while they may reflect, the names of these may reflect what you're kind of using channels for at the moment, they're much more powerful in terms of what you can do with the configuration per channel. So these also are now split away from API keys, which I'll go over in a minute, but that is a differentiator as well. Now, a new concept as well we have is currency accounts. So these effectively act as pots of currency within your entity, and they allow you to maintain different balances and also route payments, pay-ins and payouts between your processing channels. So, for example, you could have multiple channels being routed to one currency account, or you could have one account going to one channel, etc. So it essentially allows you to maintain different pots of cash, which you can then settle at different rates. So you can configure different payout schedules. Maybe you want some currency being settled weekly to a euro account, and you want some currency being settled daily to a GBP account somewhere else. So as I mentioned, on what you're used to at the moment is to have channels which come with their own pair of API keys. So you have a secret key and a public key. And these are, I would say, unchangeable. You can refresh them, obviously, and will generate new values. But beyond that, there's no way to customize what they have access to. So within the new platform, it's a bit different. You actually start off with a clean slate. You will have no API keys, and you basically then can create these through the dashboard. So you'll have the option to create a public API key, a secret API key, which are the static keys you're used to. And there's also the new option to create OAuth credentials, which basically allow you to generate a temporary bearer token, which only lasts for 60 minutes. So this is basically used in cases where you want your authentication to be more secure. It basically reduces your risk of leaking credentials, which could be used for payments, etc. The key difference, so across all of these key types, is that you can now actually define the scope that they have access to. So previously, your secret API key essentially had access to the whole system. It could do anything. You can essentially mirror that if you wish. So that would be the easiest way, I guess, to migrate from what you currently have. Or also you can select custom scopes. So for example, you could have credentials that only have access to manage disputes or get payment details, for example. One thing to note when you are playing around with the scopes, you also have the option to set access on processing channel level. So previously where you had one channel tied to one key, you can now actually have a single key that has access to multiple channels. In this case, because we obviously need to know which channel to route your payment down, you will need to provide an additional field in your payment request, which is the processing channel ID. So to reiterate, for a kind of one-to-one mirror of what you have now, what you would do is you would just create a single public key and a single secret key, and just assign scoped access to everything and select one processing channel, in which case you won't need to pass anything additional in your API requests, and you'll essentially mirror what you have now. And then you also have those options for scoped access if you wish. So here's an example. So on the left-hand side, we have what you're doing on your current platform in our sandbox environment. So in your authorization header, you just have the static secret key. So the equivalent of this on the new platform, we now use bearer auth. So the only change you would need to make is to prefix the key value with the bearer bearer term there. You can also actually see on the right-hand side, we're showing an example with passing the processing channel ID. So again, that would only be required if your key has access to multiple channels. All of our SDKs also support the new keys, obviously. On the left-hand side, you can see the what we call previous configuration. this will work with your current account. And then on the right-hand side, we have the new configuration. You'll notice there's no need to manually input bearer or do anything to that degree, because the SDK handles it for you. And then here's an example as well. Using the Python SDK, you can see how we're deploying OAuth as well. So here that you're actually setting custom scopes, for example, just to refund payments and to upload files. So now, once you've generated your API keys, what you do next will massively depend on how you're integrated with checkout.com. So many of you will be using plugins and partner integrations. So for example, the likes of BigCommerce, I think I saw on the Q&A, Magento, WooCommerce, Shopify, etc. So all of the platforms you see here are already supporting our new platform. So your upgrade will basically consist of you generating these new keys, possibly webhooks, which I'll go over in a minute, and then updating those in the platform of choice in your configuration. There may also be a switcher between account types, but that's basically the degree of change that needs to happen. From there, you can obviously test using our sandbox environment. For further details on each individual platform, we will be sharing migration guides, and we also have documentation for you, which we can follow up with. So another new feature is our fraud detection product. So while technically possible on the current platform, many of you probably won't have encountered this unless you were looking through the docs very recently. So we have a new package which you can actually import to collect device data from your shoppers when they pay. So the purpose of this is basically to get data like you see on the right-hand side. So things like a unique fingerprint for each device, IP address, the model of the device, browser, etc. And this can be used in your risk logic, so for your own custom rules, and also improves the efficiency of our machine learning model. So you'll get more accurate risk scores for the likelihood of fraud for a given payment. So the package basically you import a script, and then you can call this publish risk data function. You'll then get out a device session ID, which you then pass in your payment request to us. This is the kind of manual flow which you would use if you're either collecting card details with a full card API, or if you're charging stored cards at the point of purchase. The good news, if you're using frames or a hosted payments page, so that these are kind of our hosted and I'm-frame solutions, these already come with RISC.js built in, so you'll already actually benefit from that additional data collection. So another new feature, which hopefully goes down well with a lot of you, is that reconciliation reports are now available directly to download and schedule from the dashboard. So this includes things like your financial actions report and statements report, which I'll go over shortly. So it essentially gives you an overview of your fees, breakdowns of payouts, etc. And previously, you had to use our API or SFTP service to access these. Now you can get them straight from the dashboard. We have a few new webhook events. So this is just to highlight some more data you can receive through webhook notifications. So in terms of disputes, there's a few events which were previously only available through the API. So more granular updates on arbitration, for example, and evidence submitted. On the gateway side, we have the notification event for payment authentication failed. So this actually gives you a bit more granular information on when a 3DS session expires or fails for whatever reason. You'll get the exact code, and that notification will come in immediately, obviously. The other ones cover new functionality as well. So incremental authorization allows you to basically increase the amount you've authorized on a payment after initial estimate, which can be handy in some use cases. And the payment returned event is actually specific to certain payment methods where there can be a failure state after success. This isn't applicable to cards, It's, I believe, ACH and bank payouts. So now, what are the changes that you're going to have to adapt to, basically, in your API calls? For a lot of you, these won't apply, but we're trying to be as comprehensive as possible so that we cover everything that's changed. So first of all, webhooks. So the webhooks endpoint, which many of you may never have even seen, has now been renamed to workflows. So this is if you need to actually generate webhooks from our API, as opposed to creating them through dashboard. So this is just something to raise much of the actual request bodies and everything the same, but this renaming happened to basically cater for different kind of notification types going forward. And another thing to call out with webhook management is that now, just like API keys, you can actually assign a webhook to multiple channels, so you can get events across those processing channels, as opposed to it being locked to a single channel. That, of course, is optional as well. You can also just do it to a single channel. There's more options in terms of headers that you can actually get us to send you in the notification payloads. So you can set a custom authorization header, where previously I think you only had the private shared key. There's also the ability to add any number of HTTP headers that you wish. And finally, the signature key, so the value that's actually used to hash the notification body, which produces the HMAC signature that you get in your CCO signature header, that can also be customized now. And finally, if you are doing allow listing for incoming notifications from us, there's some new IP addresses which you'll need to make sure allowed on your end. I know someone's raised their hand. Would it be okay to just drop your question in the Q&A and we can cover it at the end? Sorry. Okay, on the topic of webhooks, we also have some changes to the types. So for the existing source updated, we've updated this now to card updated. This is in line with the new real-time updater, account updater product, which if anyone is currently using our account updater on the previous platform, you will actually be able to benefit from the real-time account updater for free until the end of 2024. Payment retrieval, so this is a disputes-related event, has been changed to the request for information received, and payment chargeback in line with the other disputes notifications is now changed to dispute received. So you'll just have to make sure if you are listening for these events that you update the logic on your side. So account funding transactions, so these are basically pay-ins that happen, for example, from an account to fund a non-merchant account. So let's say I was topping up a wallet or depositing into a customer account. This basically requires you to send some extra information that we pass on to Visa and MasterCard. So previously, the sender information was embedded under the processing object. This is just highlighting that now we have a independent sender object, which aligns with the recipient object for you to pass your data through. Card payouts is probably the area that's seen some of the most change. So if you're doing pay-to-card transactions, here are a few pointers. So first of all, the card eligibility checks have changed slightly. So currently, you would do a card verification, so that's a zero amount payment. And then in the response, you'll get basically a source.payouts value of true or false, which will tell you whether payouts are supported for that card, and then also some information on whether fast funds are supported. With the new flow, you don't actually have to make a transaction to get this data. We have a card metadata API, which allows you to get a bit more granular information on what cases that a card is supported. So you have, for example, domestic non-money transfer, domestic gambling, etc. So you can align with this with your use case. Secondly, I mentioned the concept of the currency accounts. We now have the ability to check the currency account balances on the fly. So with our API, this information is also available via the dashboard. This is an important thing to do basically before requesting payouts, to keep an eye on how much balance you have remaining in a given pot. If you do attempt to make a payout with insufficient balance, then you'll get back this new error. So that's also something to handle on your side. In the payout requests, we've changed a couple of keys, which I'll show an example in a minute. So the destination, the information we're currently sending in the destination object has now moved to destination account holder. This is basically to allow some additional fields under the destination. So we put all the account holder information within its own object. And then again, just like the AFTs, the sender information object has been moved to sender. And also we have this new field, funds transfer type. So this is to basically declare the type of payout that you're making. So this is particularly useful if you are eligible for different funds transfer types. So this maps to the codes that Visa Direct and MasterCard Money Send give us. So for example, C52 for money transfer on MasterCard's end, or FD for funds disbursement on Visa's end. This will all be shared with you if it applies to you. So you'll know which funds transfer types apply to you. And then finally, on the webhook side, the only change here is that previously where we used payment paid for a successful card payout, we've now aligned it with card pay-ins, and the success event is payment approved. The data you get back, you can expect much the same. So here's an example just to put it all together. So in a source object, we're actually passing the currency account. So this is to tell the gateway where to take funds from on your account level. And then the destination in this case is a stored card. So you're using the source ID, the instrument ID. And then here you can see the account holder object. We're declaring the name of the person, the amount, currency, obviously, and then the sender information here. So as this is a money transfer request, you have the concept of a sender and a recipient. So the sender is the actual customer of yours, and then the recipient is potentially another customer of yours who has a card. And then, yeah, you have some additional data points as well, so such as source of funds. So this just is to give the schemes a bit more flavor of what was the method of the deposit which funded this transfer. So in this case, we have debit card. So moving on to the next topic, reconciliation reports. So on a new platform, we have some new report types. Don't be too overwhelmed, because these, most of them nicely map to what you have currently. So first of all, we have the financial actions report. So this roughly maps to your reporting payments report. So essentially, it's a granular breakdown of every payment action. So authorization, capture, refund, chargeback, etc. And then there's a line per individual fee associated with that. So this has been renamed, but the functionality is much the same. You can generate these by a dates range or by payout ID to get basically all of the actions which occurred in a given settlement to you. And this is also available via the dashboard, like we mentioned, just like all of them are. The payouts report is most similar to your reporting statements output at the moment. So this is a single line per settlement from checkout.com with breakdowns per fee type and cost. And then you have the balance report, which is actually a new one from us. So in line with the new currency accounts, this basically gives you an overview of all the money in and out of each of those pots. In addition to, yeah, like IDs and everything that allows you to track that over a given period. The settlement statement finally is our kind of more visual PDF format of your settlement. This is roughly equivalent to what you see as the statement within Hub. So includes things like breakdown by scheme, payment method, etc. Another benefit is that you can now actually receive this via API and SOTP, as well as through the dashboard. So when it comes to the reports API, previously you were likely using our reporting endpoint, which basically contained everything. So you could return JSON, CSV data, filter by dates, payment statement ID or reference. Now we've kind of broken this down into two major endpoints. So we have the reports endpoint, which can be used to retrieve CSV reports by date or entity/payout ID. And then we have the financial actions endpoint, which can be used to retrieve JSON data on that payment level or action level. Finally, if you're using SOTP at the moment and you wish to continue using this, as part of the upgrade, we'll basically need to establish a new connection with yourselves. So you'll have a new folder to access your reports once you've upgraded. If you have an automated job, perhaps that's importing the data from us, from your SFTP. Just to note, some of the field names have been updated. So we have basically a full mapping file for you within our documentation to facilitate any changes that are needed on your end. So next, migrating data. So we have a solution here, which basically means that you can continue using your existing customer and instrument IDs, meaning you'll basically be able to seamlessly continue charging the existing saved cards and customers that you have already on your current account. You can see below how this works. So first of all, I request a payment, and then internally we check, does the data exist on your account that you're trying to charge? So let's say I'm using instrument A. Does instrument A exist on the new account? If it doesn't, then we'll basically check, does this exist on your previous account? Obviously, if it still doesn't exist on your previous account, you probably made some kind of error in your input, so we'll return an error. If it does exist on your previous account, then we'll, of course, import it automatically and use it. So all of this is kind of abstracted from you when you actually go to use our API, but it's just maybe good to know how it works. One caveat as well is that if you revert back and forth between platforms, which we wouldn't recommend unless you actually have to, the sync only works in one direction. So we can only basically pick up data from your old account onto the new one. We can't do the other way around. So if you move and then start adding a bunch of new cards on the new account, and then need to revert for whatever reason, you won't have access to that data. So we would recommend more sort of drip feeding onto the new account rather than going back and forth for whatever reason. So another, thing to point out, which is quite important, is that existing payments won't be migrated. So your stored cards and customers will, but the payments themselves that happen through your previous account won't. So this means that all follow-up actions, so things like refunds, captures, voids, disputes, so that's chargebacks, would need to happen through the hub or a previous API configuration. The previous platform will remain open for you to basically take those actions for as long as it needs to be. One call out though, if you are using Shopify, as we have a bit more control over the mapping here in the configuration, you will actually be able to continue making refunds through your platform as normal, and we'll automatically map the refund back to your old account if the payment existed there. One thing off the back of that though, we can still recognize previous payment IDs if you're using them as flags for merchant initiated transactions. So let's say you're doing subscription payments or any kind of customer not present transaction. If you're currently providing the previous payment ID to point to that original authentication, then you can continue to do so, and our gateway will be able to recognize it. So last of all, next steps. So off the back of this webinar, you should receive an email with a link to access our dashboard. You will receive access to both our test and production environment. Much like the hub, you have obviously a sandbox and then a production environment where you can charge real payments. In the test environment, you can use test cards and test data, which is outlined in our docs. This slide is very much just to give an idea of estimates that we have made on our end. It's nowhere near like a representation of every single merchant, and I understand everyone's going to be in a different situation. And as we've said as well, we're very open to feedback and understand that the deadline communicated is quite tight for some of you. So we want to work with you essentially on this. But yeah, this is more just to give you a flavor of some of the tasks that might be required with this upgrade. So for example, to accept card details, some of our front end solutions, there's not been major changes to these, but we've basically given an estimate on the time it would take to change the key configuration and push through tests here. We've highlighted frames v1, so this is associated with our classic API as well. So that's an old version of frames, which is why we've given a bit more time to actually move across from this. I should probably point out here, we're considering a sprint as 2 weeks, so roughly 10 business days. So moving on to card payments, we have some tasks. So for example, if you're using an older version of our SDK that doesn't support the new platform, this will require you to upgrade and test through that. Stored card payments, there's not really any changes you need to make here, but we've allowed some time for testing. Webhook handling, there may not need to be many changes you need to make here, but we've allowed some time, obviously, if you need to handle some of those new events or changed events. Some other features you might need to implement. So for example, wallet payments are very popular. So Apple Pay and Google Pay, if you're not using an e-commerce platform and you need to implement these yourself, then this will need to basically be redone. So for Apple Pay, you'll need to regenerate your certificates. Google Pay is a bit more straightforward, but you'll just need to change up your keys there, test that. Co-branded cards, so we didn't really mention it, but Carte Bancaire is offered as part of the new platform. So if you have a French entity or European entity, you can support Carte Bancaire, MARDA as well, another local scheme. These require a little bit more work to integrate and test. Card payouts, obviously I went over, there's a number of changes there. So this would be I believe the bulk of work for anyone that's doing pay to card transactions. And on the operational side, just some things to think about. Obviously, you'll have a new dashboard, and the API is now a bit more flexible in how you can assign access. So you might want to think about and plan how you're going to scope access, or if you're just going to do a one-to-one mirroring of what you have now. And also, we didn't really mention, but in the dashboard, you have the ability to access more refined user roles and define those yourself. So kind of in line with what we're doing with the API, you can, for example, restrict someone to be a view-only user or only access a certain part of the dashboard. There's, of course, reporting configuration, so doing any mappings on your side that might be required, and risk management. So this would be just exploring our fraud detection solution, looking at what risk rules you have in place, whether there's anything you need to improve, and also potentially implementing that risk.js package that I highlighted earlier. So I'll leave you with this before the Q&A. So there's a few useful links here. We'll be sharing the slides as well, so you'll have access to these. So useful resources being our documentation. We have the dedicated upgrade guide, which goes over all of the topics I covered today. We have the integration docs and API reference, which in case you're not aware of, we have a previous and new version, so you can compare directly the differences between the different APIs. In terms of code samples, we of course have our GitHub, which has documentation for all of the SDKs, which I mentioned earlier. So that's the mobile SDK as well as the backend SDKs for every language, and also sample projects in each language which use frames in addition to those SDKs. So it will show like a complete payment flow on the new platform using those SDKs. So it might be a good launching off point if you want to download one of them. Testing as well. So we of course have the sandbox dashboard, which I mentioned earlier, and test cards and data, which is specific to the new platform. So be sure to check out the new docs on that. And lastly, in terms of support going forward, we obviously have this ongoing communication with yourselves, with the Q&A, etc. But for anything a bit deeper, we have the platform upgrade at checkout.com support email, and a dedicated team there to help you along the upgrade journey. So I know there's a lot of content there, and I can see there's a lot of questions. So I don't know, Simi, if you've had a look at that while I've been talking, if you want to kick off with one of the questions.
Yes, while you were walking our clients through the technical aspect, I was having a look at the questions our client have, and I replied to some of them, but a lot of them being technical, like about, we have Ben, who has questions around BigCommerce integration.
Yes, I think I can see Ben's question. So at present, it's required for BigCommerce to set a flag to allow for API keys for new account structure to be used. Yes, so the good news for you is actually the BigCommerce integration has been updated to support the new platform. So we now actually allow you to put in keys without this bearer prefix. We have documentation specifically on that we can share with you after this.
And also we have questions around stored data and if they can use the store code IDs.
Sorry, could you say whose question was that?
Morgan, and we have another from another one, Konstantin.
Thanks. I'd also like to cover, sorry, I didn't answer the last bit of Ben's question. He mentions the credentials for the new platform. You should receive those soon after this call, I believe in the next.
And also, one thing maybe worth highlighting, because I've seen some client has been asking for that about refund and authorization. If an authorization has been done on the old platform, it cannot be captured on the new platform because these are two different interfaces, and the transaction data in itself will not be migrated to the new platform.
Okay.
And also maybe if you can just highlight about migrating the stored card on the new platform for customers who has been storing the card details.
Yeah, so I think I covered that in the vault.
Yeah. I think Konstantin has raised his hand. Maybe you have a questions. Stephen, are you still on the call? I think Stephen has run out of battery. He will be reconnected in a bit. If you can just stay online for a few minutes. Stephen is joining in a bit.
Yeah.
Hi, Stephen.
Hi there. I'm so sorry, everyone. Hopefully you
Welcome
can
back.
hear me. Yeah, it turns out the room I was in was didn't have power, so that's good. So I'm not sure if I can see the Q&A from my end, but Simi, if you can pass me questions, then I can help.
Okay, we have 43 open questions, and I'm not sure, some of them we have already covered during the presentation. I'll start from the most recent one. Will we be able to refund payment on the old platform for 6 months after the upgrade? Yes, we will keep the old platform on a view-only mode. for a period of 6 months. And I think this will also allow our customers, to deal with refunds and chargeback as well. Another question, will the support team be more available to help us during the migration and more generally after it? Yes, we have a dedicated team, the platform upgrade team, who will ensure that you have a smooth transition to the new platform. And we have also scaled our support team to better serve our clients. So definitely you will have a more support from the team. As for Daryl, you have a questions around the deadline. Okay, Constantine, sorry, has raised his hand. I'll get back to you in a bit. So to your questions, Daryl, we will provide you with all the materials. We will send this recorded webinar, the slide. We have documented the migration plan as well on our website. Plus, we have in place a dedicated team for the upgrade. And we will support you. We will work with you to make that deadline of 31st Jan achievable to you. However, if you still have some concern, I will request you to get in touch with the platform upgrade team so that we can see how we can assist, for you to achieve that 31st January deadline.
So I can see, sorry, everyone, I can see some more recent questions. Simi will probably have to share some older ones, but I can see one from Constantine about the scheme transaction ID. So yes, this will be ported across. So everything that in terms of the payment ID that you refer to in the previous payment ID, that will point to your existing payments. On our side, we'll do the mapping so that the sort of generic scheme ID gets passed on in the ISO message there. Alternatively, if you're passing that raw scheme ID that's recognized by Visa MasterCard, then that will also work just the same. So basically, the headline there is no changes are needed when passing the scheme ID. So I think Stratos asks, can a payment be authorized and captured from the old platform but refunded from the new platform? So yeah, unfortunately not. As I kind of covered previously, the payments themselves essentially exist against the given account. So unless you're using our Shopify integration, where this is kind of abstracted away from you, you will need to essentially either use the hub or a configuration that's pointing to the previous account via the API to perform those follow-up refunds. So someone's asking about Salesforce Commerce Cloud and the estimate of effort needed in development to migrate to the new platform. So this may depend on a few variables, particularly which version of our cartridge you're using for Salesforce. But yeah, we can maybe follow up with further details on your specific platform needs after this. Just as well as that, a main kind of point to make to everyone is that we will be looking at these questions and we'll be able to follow up after the Q&A. So if we don't have time to answer your question, we'll be sure to follow up with you individually if you leave your name here. And equally, if you think of any questions after this that you want to get clarity on, then that platform upgrade email is open to those, and our team can address those directly with you.
Yeah, thank you very much for joining us, and Stephen to walk us through the technical requirements. As Stephen mentioned, we remain available for any assistance. If you have any concern, questions that hasn't been we have been unable to answer due to time constraint, please reach out to the platform upgrade team, and we'll make sure all your questions are being, you have a response to all your questions. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much.